My name is Karen Ami, and I am founder and executive director of the Chicago Mosaic School, which is the first and only school for mosaic art outside of Europe. We have been around for 16 years, the last 3 in Edgewater on Granville.
Hello, I'm Helen Cameron, and I'm the co-owner of Uncommon Ground, along with my husband, Michael. We have the first certified organic rooftop farm in the country and the Uncommon Ground in Edgewater, and the first certified organic brewery called Green Star in our Wrigleyville location.
Hello, I'm Patty Colandrea. I am founder and co-owner of the Bark Bark Club. We are located on Broadway, and we're a full-service pet care business. So if you need retail, grooming, daycare, boarding, training, dog walking, please give me a call. Thanks.
I lived in Lakeview at the time, and so did Helen and Patty. We lived within a couple of blocks of each other. So we always used to go to Uncommon Ground. Patty had a different life. She was traveling and had a corporate job, but we were all very based in the neighborhood at the time. And Patty was the first one to break out of Lakeview and be a pioneer and go off to Edgewater. And then we followed.
Yes, she introduced us to Edgewater. Yeah, and then, she was originally, Bark Bark Club was on, was that Granville? No.
Granville.
Yep.
Granville. And then now, she moved. In the meantime, when we started looking for our second location for Uncommon Ground, we found this amazing building on Devon and Glenwood. And so moved in there, and what a fantastic journey it has been. It's such a great community. We just absolutely love it up here. And so then I had the capacity to do farmers markets, and I invited a lot of community businesses to participate. And so Bark Bark Club would come every Friday, and they would, introduce what they had to offer to our community. And, we of course invited all the dogs and pets to come visit. And so that really was a great bonding thing between our two businesses and the community. And then eventually Karen comes along and brings her Chicago Mosaic School to us. And so now we're all fully having our businesses here in Edgewater, but then also Mike and I sold our house that we lived in for 20 years in North Center and moved to the lakefront here in Edgewater. And then shortly thereafter, Karen got her beautiful place. And actually Patty's window overlooks Karen's outdoor deck. And just right out the window. Yeah, that way.
Yeah, I can see Patty.
Yeah.
From my apartment.
Yeah. They can literally, Patty's been the leader, and then we just kind of, she turns us on to a good thing, and then we can't resist. And so here we are all together.
Patty's fault. Yeah.
Yeah. My fault. I think we've all had past lives together, so that's why we're so close. But I remember meeting Helen. I had worked in the talent business as an agent, and she was this darling young girl that came in just all bubbly and full of it. And I would book a lot of trade shows and runway shows at the Limelight. There used to be a nightclub called the Limelight in Chicago, and we were the agency that they used for their midnight runway shows. So I booked Helen on that, and oh my gosh, we've got so many fun Limelight stories to tell. So, Helen and I just connected and remained fast and furious friends through our 20s. And then, as she said, we started out meeting Karen with the bowling, and that was lots of fun. The key with the three of us is fun. If it's not fun, we're not doing it. So taking the
Absolutely.
classes at Karen's was great. I like to think I'm creative, but that's about it. So here's Helen putting out a whole set of dishes and cups and bowls. And, my little dish is just like, yeah, it was amazing. Like, okay. But it was so much fun getting to know each other that way and then moving on into different areas, watching our businesses grow together.
Yeah, we were all fledglings together, and then we
all grew up.
grew,
We just
we
all grew up.
prospered, we worked our butts off. We're all very independent. That's our core nature. Kind of
And we're
control
all-
freaks in a sense.
Yeah.
A good amount of OCD thrown in there. But I think that's really what it takes to have, a successful business, and then to have friends who get it, who get you and have that kind of support structure really makes a difference when you're going through, building a business, growing a business. It's a tremendous gratifying thing, but it's also very challenging and difficult. And to have people that you can laugh with and
Cry with.
commiserate with,
Sure.
and share good information with, just like with COVID now, as we were kind of negotiating through, what was possible, anything that we could do to keep our businesses alive, we were sharing that information and, trying to make sure that we're all going to be okay.
And supporting each other. I really think that, especially this last year when the three of us, as well as the rest of the world, had no idea what laid ahead. We could not control this. This is like finally something that we absolutely cannot control, and neither can the world. So it was pretty stressful for us, thinking that all these years of building these businesses with, passion, and I mean hours of time and energy that we are not paid for, and we do it because we love it so much. To see all that possibly slip away because of this pandemic, we encouraged each other. I know that Helen and Patty, like, I really felt like they were there. They could commiserate. They were going through similar issues with their staff and having to close down, and how things have changed. But we have survived this year together. I mean, it was iffy at times, but we all sort of agreed that, well, we can't control this. We have each other. We're going to be okay. And
We're all in it together. That's the thing about COVID, really. It wasn't that just a certain group of people were affected. We all were. Right. And so we were just literally all in the same boat. So how do we figure out, how to survive it? And then hopefully once we survive it, thrive in the aftermath. And that's whenever we sort of get together, there's always a part of our discussion that's in that place. And then we kind of go crazy. But in the meantime, we are all concerned about making sure that we all survive this, and are then able to continue to, serve our communities and, keep it alive, keep what makes our community so special alive, food and drink, art, our pets. I mean, our pets have been so critical, I think, to my well-being throughout all of this, So, I know the community really values Bark Bark Club, and, that's just such a big deal to be able to have what you need for your pets and pet care. So, yeah, we just want to make sure we just keep all three of our businesses going.
Yeah, I mean, I go to Bark Bark Club several times a week with my beautiful dog. Yeah. I order in from Uncommon Ground. And, I know that it's not only because I love those businesses, it's like I want to give Patty and Helen the oomph to keep going, because it's just going to get better. I really feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel now.
I think especially now, I mean, we have just, our staff came to us because we were going to wait to reopen indoors until vaccines were available for our staff. But they came to us and they said, look, you know, we're seeing what the CDC guidelines are saying, and we think we should reopen indoors. We're ready to do that. We feel confident that we can be safe.
Yeah.
And so we're reopening Uncommon Ground on the 3rd of March for indoor dining at 40% capacity. So all those things are kind of in motion right now. Both restaurants are getting some refresh, you know, fixing up things to be ready. We're hoping to have a very successful and busy spring and summer, and hopefully, you know, by the time we get to fall, we'll really feel a lot more normal. I don't think we'll ever go back to the way we were. There will always be some remnants of the COVID, you know, experience with us moving forward. But I think we'll get to a place where we are not living so fearful of getting sick and, you know, getting other people sick.
Interesting how, you know, we talked about it before COVID hit. I know my business was just on this trajectory.
Yeah, we were
Every
one of our
day
best
we were
years.
pulling our hair out trying to keep up with it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the train hit and it just stopped
Yeah.
cold. But I don't want to go back to that kind of crazy. This has made us all slow down, look at all of our processes and what the heck we're doing, and say, we're going to move forward this way. We can't let ourselves get that crazy again. And you don't even know you're crazy till you're out of it. It's like, whoa, that was intense. So I guess I could talk about closing my business in the 20s. I just wasn't making enough money. I wasn't a union agency. So I also got kind of tired with working with talent after 6 years. It's like, all right, I need a change. I love the talent world, but I needed a big change. So I went into the corporate world and went through many, many downsizes and right sizing. And then I pursued my dream of working with animals. After doing research from the flower industry, I thought maybe I wanted that. I researched opening an art gallery, but realized I know nothing about art. So, you know, the animal kingdom won out on that. As far as the changes that have come, it's really customer driven. They're telling me what they need with their pets, because when I first opened, it was retail and grooming. And as it went on, people needed dog walking. Like, okay, let's start a dog walking department. Then people were saying they would want a training. So we had to direct people to training. And, you know, why not start a daycare center? Because once I moved my business over onto Broadway, I had access to the back building, and it turned into you know, the next big step of my business as far as boarding and daycare. So it's a lot of it is just customer driven. And of course, I want to just keep expanding what we could do to better serve the animals in the community and just make it a really fun life for them. I think every creature should have the best life ever. Because all they are is just bundles of love on legs, and all they want to do is please you. So my goal is to make their life wonderful, which makes customers so happy. When their pets are happy, they're happy. Just like if your kids are happy, you're happy. So another big change because of the pandemic was trying to think where we can take this. So we did buy a farm. And the farm is completely done now and set up so people can stay there with their pets. It's 13 acres. It's a 3-acre pond. Dogs could run anywhere they want and just have a blast. And just to see the joy on their face when they get to run around is incredible. Like Punk, Karen's dog, you can just see the biggest smile on his face when he's there. So that was something that we did to possibly grow into another area with our business and really help customers have a good time. They can social distance and not worry about the world when they're out there. And the pets will have a fabulous time too.
I started out in college for chemical engineering. And I think I decided like in 6th grade, that's what I was going to do. I loved science. I loved math and chemistry. And I went to college at Purdue for that for a few years until my mom got sick with cancer and I had to drop out because, I had a younger brother and sister, and my dad was traveling for work. So I needed to come home and take care of the family. And that put me on a different trajectory. I ended up coming to Chicago after that. I didn't have money for college. I had a full ride scholarship for 1 year at UIC, and I took business classes while working at a restaurant called Redemax, which if you're familiar with Michigan and New Buffalo, it's a very famous burger joint. And went to school full time, worked full time, got through the year. But, at that point, I realized I didn't want to be a chemical engineer, and I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. And I didn't really have the money to keep going. So, I was working in a restaurant, but then I was supplementing my income with all kinds of other odd jobs. I've done all kinds of crazy stuff. I know how to weld. I've done trade shows for welding. Midas offered me a position. Like I've done all kinds of interesting things. But in the end, I grew up with a mother who cooked. She was from Germany. She, made everything from scratch, worked in restaurants and food service. And so, I had sort of a platform there. And as I was working in the restaurant industry and then in Chicago after I left school, I started working for the Levy organization, DB Kaplan's and Water Tower Place. And that's where I met Michael. He came from the West Coast, and he was a manager for that company. We worked together on and off for about 3 years before we started dating. Patty worked with him during those days too. We worked at Wrigley Field together. So we've kind of shared a lot of really interesting sidebars as we've grown up. So Mike and I got married. We were working at a hotel downtown for several years. And after that experience, we really had the dream of opening our own place. And so that's how Uncommon Ground started. It was a coffee cart first in the mall there on Diversey and where Clark and Broadway meet. And that was a beginning for us, but after running a hotel operation, a coffee cart's really not going to keep you, fully engaged, but it was a beginning to kind of get a name out there, develop a business. And so eventually we found our little space at 1214 West Grace and opened up, the coffee house and cafe. We had live music and local art. That's when I met Karen. We had, Jeff Buckley played there and got Best Concert of the Year from the Tribune and Sun-Times. So we've got this sort of very crazy homespun, from the ground up kind of history. And eventually we expanded into another storefront in our building going west, and in 1996. And then added a bar, had a full kitchen finally. And then in 2004, we expanded again into the 3800 North Clark space. And then we were on Check Please, and we got very favorable reviews, and it more than doubled our business after doubling our business from our expansion. So we were just like insane trying to manage that growth. But once we figured it out, we finally hired our first general manager to help us. And then we came to this place of let's open another restaurant. And this time let's own the building instead of renting. And that's when we found the building on Devon, and it had everything we wanted. And it also had this huge parking lot, and turns out this beautiful rooftop just squarely in the sunshine. And the first time I saw that rooftop, I was like, oh my God, Mike, we could grow food up here. And all the while I'm thinking tomatoes in my head. I want fresh homegrown tomatoes. And Mike, of course, was completely agreeable to that. And he helped me figure out how to build that farm. And then we were off to the races there. We had for several years, a farmer's market, because there was really nothing like that up in the area at the time. Live entertainment outside, and art openings, and we do a lot of fundraising for the community. We really firmly look at ourselves as a very community-centric business. And, like Patty said, your community can sometimes tell you what they want from you. And, live music, art, all this fundraising, all different kinds of events, we'll do. It's just been a really great experience having the farm. That kind of adds a whole other dimension to our business, and it connects us to so many people in our community. And every group has their favorite foods. Everybody loves to garden. It's one of the biggest pastimes all over the country, and so that's really a great community connector as well. And that way we can encourage people to know where their food comes from, know what goes into it, eat healthier, eat fresher, and then support sustainable food systems.
So I, met Patty and Helen, got to know them really well at my studio, which was on the first floor of my house. I had gone to art school. I have been an exhibiting artist for a long time. I was going to say like 35 years, but I'm really not that old. But anyway, I am the only one of this trio that has children. So I met Helen when I was just about to burst with my middle son, Elias, and he will be 30 years old this year. And so I wanted to start a business out of my studio because I love clay, I love art, I love teaching. And I had the situation right on the first floor of my 2-story house. So I started this thing called Art Break. I don't know if you guys even remember it was called that, maybe before you, where you could take clay classes. And if you had a baby, you could take the baby upstairs and my friend would babysit the baby while you were taking clay classes. So that is how I was able to work while I had these very tiny children. And it was very successful, and it was a way for me to stay connected, not only to adults, which was very important, but also to other creative people and the artistic community. So in 2005, I took a leap of faith and because my studio I had too many students, actually. So I rented a storefront on Ashland Avenue across from my house, and decided that I was going to start the Chicago Mosaic School. It was going to be a non-for-profit organization because I wanted it to be a charitable organization and an organization that could work with Chicago public schools and underserved communities. And so that was 16 years ago, this April, that I grew out of that space on Ashland before the year was out and ended up moving to a space in Ravenswood. By that time, Patty had already moved up to Edgewater, and Helen was still in North Center. But they both had connections up in Edgewater. So I was going up to Edgewater more and more. And in 2016 or 17, we realized that we were going to lose our lease and get pushed out of our 7,500 square foot facility because we had grown that much. We were
beautiful, that space.
It was beautiful. It's now a mortgage brokerage firm. But anyway, We have students that come from all over the world. We have visiting artists that come from Japan and Italy, Australia, Scotland, France. So we're the only kind of sort of academic, technically oriented school for mosaic art, and that's been intentional. We do teach other art forms like clay, watercolor, stained glass, jewelry. We do after school matters. We've done several public art projects. Even in Edgewater, we had one that was done through the Edgewater Chamber that ended up on uncommon ground, and it's beautiful, and you should go see it.
Yes,
But
I love it. It's a jewel.
in when we had to move out of our space, I was very stressed out because it was very hard to find a large space for what we needed. We needed to be near public transportation, and we didn't want to be way out in an industrial area. So Patty got on her horn and started calling people.
I just said, you have to come down here. Matt was cooking, so I didn't want you to do that. But
Yeah,
that's when I called Harry. I'm like, Harry, you have to meet Karen.
So she called the alderman, and the alderman called me and said, so what is this school? And so one thing led to another, and I got introduced to our landlord, who decided to build a building around us. And it's a much longer story, but we moved, and it was very difficult to reestablish our business after many years. But my girlfriends were right there. They already knew everyone up in Edgewater. They were sending people from their businesses over to the Chicago Mosaic School. They always showed up at every art opening that we have. And, we would send our students to Bark Club and to Uncommon Ground, go get dinner after your class. So it's worked out really in a beautiful way. And finally, what we were all touched on is I moved out of my house that I had lived in for 32 years in Lakeview to come right here to Edgewater. And it's sort of a full circle thing. The three of us are all on Sheridan Road, all three of us. My dad grew up a couple of blocks from here and went to Senn High School. And my grandfather lived across the street. And I used to visit him there when I was a little girl. So this is like where I'm supposed to be. It's the perfect place for the three of us as friends to walk around and have our businesses and know people in the neighborhood. It's a diverse and interesting, exciting place to be. And it is the best of Chicago, this neighborhood. It really is a great, great place.
I agree. I noticed it when I first moved here and started my business, because that was all part of it too, is the community action that I saw. I've never lived in a neighborhood like this where everybody gets involved and helps. And I truly made sure my business would contribute to that. But I was thinking, how am I going to get customers as well? So I kind of tapped into Karen and Helen. They have art openings. So when I first opened, I would have art openings for dogs every month. So I would have different artists hang their art, and everybody would come with their dogs, and we'd serve appetizers and food. Helen would bring plates when we first started that. And it got written up as something to do in the Tribune, is go do the art opening with your dog. So it's just crazy. And the community just glommed onto it. And we had so much fun at those parties, so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be doing that again.
Yes, we will.
Yes, we will. We collaborated in 2019 on a marketing flyer of 3 women-owned businesses in Edgewater. which we will continue to distribute until we've used them up. But it's a really great way to kind of introduce people to each other, depending on who they go to. But it's a really good way to support each other and get word out about other businesses.
And women's owned. I mean,
women's owned.
The three of us, I know that my staff is mostly women, and it just panned out that way. And I have great people. I have great people that help me run the school and teach at the school and come and take classes to the school. And I know it's the same for you guys too.
Yeah. And a lot of the people that you work with have become our friends as well, kind of an extended family of people. And, same with Patty, some of her team and her partner, especially Elizabeth. So we're sort of a core group, but there's definitely a whole other circle of people around us that we've connected with.
Love what you're going to do. You have to really love it, because you're going to hit a lot of barricades. And if you don't feel it, you're going to get knocked down. But you have to be stubborn. And if you get thrown a curveball, you're like, okay, bring it on. We're going to do this. So you can never let yourself get knocked down. But if you don't love what you do and feel passionate about it, it's not going to stick.
Absolutely.
So that's something, when I was trying to figure out what my next business is going to be, is I only focused on what I loved. And I nailed it down to 3 things: art, flowers, and animals. And I researched businesses for those 3 fields, and animals went out. So do your homework, understand what you're getting into, but you got to have the passion, and don't let anybody tell you no. Don't let anybody say, oh, you can't do that. What are you thinking? Because when I left my corporate job, I worked with all these PhDs. And when I told them what I was going to do, they're like, what? You're going to be washing dogs, squeezing anal glands, cleaning ears? Yep, that's what I'm going to be doing. And 20 years later, it's fantastic. So
20 years later, you're like the dog whisperer of the community. You can't take a walk with Patty anywhere in Edgewater without her going, oh, there's so-and-so. And the dog is like, the minute the dog sees her, they're like pulling their owner to go see Patty because they love her so much.
I love it so much. I love it.
Yeah.
They're the best customers ever.
I would agree with you, Patty. It's really passion, because passion is, if you love it, you'll do it if it's good or bad day, because you need to see it through. And yes, being stubborn, but I think also for the 3 of us, it's not just the business itself. We want to do something for the greater good. We want to do something that is bigger than us or our businesses. We want to make the community better. We want to help people. And so you can do that through doggy daycare, sure, or you can do it through taking an art class or having an awesome meal at Uncommon Ground. But it's other things that we do outside of that's connected to our business, to bring in the community and to make long-lasting changes in people's lives that live in Edgewater and in the city at large.
Yep. And another thing is, surround yourself with good people. And if there's someone negative bringing you down, you got to let them go. So I know the team of people that work with me, I would be lost without them. They're just such a smart group of people. Hire people who are smarter than you. That's a good thing to do, because they can really help.
That's impossible.
Oh no, it works for me, really. Like, ooh, thank God I have great people working this through. It's amazing. So don't let negative people in your life, let them go.
Yeah, for sure. I have to say, especially with COVID, I've had a lot of time to think about, where I'm at and where I'm going, now that this has happened. And I'm incredibly thankful that I've been, a successful entrepreneur. I've been in charge of my own destiny. And it takes an incredible amount of motivation and passion. But I think that, you know, like Patty said, you really kind of need to know what you're getting yourself into. You can't go into something blindly. You have to do your homework. You have to do your research. You know, I worked in restaurants. I started out washing dishes. I've done every possible thing you could do, you know, as a job function in a restaurant before I actually opened my own. Because, you know, I'm not going to be a good owner if I don't know what the dishwasher is going through. And the dishwasher is one of the most important people in your restaurant. You know what I mean? You need to make sure that your dishes are clean and that, you know, everything's put away properly so that everything functions right. So, you know, sometimes it's a matter of, you know, doing an internship or, you know, getting the schooling you need, but you kind of need to know what you're getting yourself into so that you can, you know, master it and do well. The other thing, you know, and I think the reason why, you know, restaurants don't usually survive for very long. This is a really tough industry. Most of them don't make it to 5 years. I'm going to be celebrating my 30-year anniversary this year on July 1st for our Clark Street location. And yeah, and it's going to be 14 years at Devon, you know. And this is in a community, you know, I'm not like in a downtown area, you know, this is a restaurant that the community is supporting, you know, because I think our idealism and what we've implemented there matches what our guests really want. And so you have to listen to your customers. You have to be open to change. You have to understand your finances. That is a really, really key element about being a successful business owner. I am the one who throughout all these 30 years has managed our finances, and I watch everything like a hawk to the penny. I know my business, and, you know, and as a result, I'm successful. I'm there with it. You know, when there's a downturn, it's like, okay, what do we need to do to make sure we're okay? You know, have good relationships with your purveyors, with the people who supply you. Make sure you have great relationships with your customers and guests. You know, there are just so many elements, right? And you do have to surround yourself with a lot of great people because you can't do it all yourself. And it really is about the family that you build that helps you build your business. And that's a huge quality of life element as well. You know, you're in charge of your own destiny. You surround yourself with great people. So as a result, you're enjoying your job, you're enjoying what you're doing, and you're able to develop it and make it the best it can be.
Helen, I would say one other thing, and that is ask for help when you need it. There's things that you can't do yourself or don't know how to do, and
Yep.
you need to reach out to people that know their stuff and can help you, because, you know, financially, that is not my strong suit, but I knew how to ask for help, and I was not ashamed to do it. And every time I run into something that I don't know how to do, or I know I'm not good at, I'm feel really good that I can do that. And it makes other people feel good that you have confidence in them to assist you. So if you're starting a business, you may not have the skill set to do everything it takes to open a business. So you should find people that can give you some advice or assistance, or even consult with them along the way.
Absolutely.
I'm going to add one more thing to that. That's absolutely true, because it's hard to ask for help. I'm one of those people that thinks I can do it all. And while I am Wonder Woman to a certain degree, I am not, you know, the Wonder Woman. It's, you know, there's limitations, right? And I have been in periods of time in my life and my business so completely overwhelmed and like just pouring my lifeblood into what I'm doing to the point where I'm absolutely exhausted. And, you know, it's what my business needed from me at the moment, but you also have to realize that there needs to be some self-care. and that you can't drive yourself so hard that you're not going to be good for your business moving forward.
Totally.
So, you know, that's sort of a cautionary tale, and it's really important to make sure that you're not, you know, like Patty said, you know, we were all operating at this sort of crazy level, and we knew we were exhausting ourselves. And you have to kind of figure out, what can I do for a timeout, you know, to catch my breath, to have time to think, to have time to process, so that I can now move forward successfully again and keep growing and building. And so that's, I think, really important for resilience. You know, to make sure that you can continue on and, you know, keep fighting the good fight.